Welcome to the Glow Code podcast. My name is Kate Dove and I'm your host. The Glow Code podcast is a collection of bite-sized conversations designed to help you step into your main character energy, glow up, and connect with your femininity. This podcast is for the woman who wants to radiate her beauty from the inside out and move through the world with authenticity. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode, and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to the podcast. We are a little off schedule with this episode. I am recording this on Monday to be uploaded the next day, Tuesday. And usually we've been doing like an every Friday schedule, but this is a topic and a theme that I've really been sitting with. And I was especially thinking about this last night. I was wanting to find the words to describe the way that I was beginning to finally truly understand and grasp the concept of collapsing time and quantum leaping. And it was funny because I'm having all these thoughts and me and my husband are in the car and I'm explaining it to him and he's like, when you talk to me about these things, I feel like I'm in the movie Interstellar and I'm trying to like figure out your 4D world. And I always love to hear his feedback and like his thoughts because we're both very spiritual, but in different ways. And sometimes we'll be talking about the same thing, but we think we mean different things. And then we come to the conclusion, like, actually, we understand and feel this the same way. So anyway, that's how last night was going. And this morning, I was just piecing everything together so that way I could come on here and explain this concept that I think so many people want but don't realize why they want it or how to make it happen. Everyone wants to be the main character in their story. Everyone wants the victorious moment where they get the dream job or the dream relationship or the dream body, the dream home. And then everything will be all right and well in the world. But what many don't realize is that our story is not a standalone. It's an ongoing series. And if you're not familiar with like some of this bookish lingo that I like to use, a standalone is just one book that you can read on its own. And you don't have to like read the series to understand the characters and the plot. So many will approach their goals like a standalone and they will wonder, how do I get to that end goal? How do I get to that dreamland where I'll be able to breathe and everything will feel good and I won't have any worries? But what they will shy away from is who they need to become in order to receive that thing. And if you have been in the manifestation or personal development space, you may have heard that in order to receive your manifestation, you have to change your identity. And I hear a lot of this, especially around money, like, how do you react when you open your bank account or when you're paying for something? And those are all helpful tools, but what actually helps us to collapse time and receive and hold, that is the key word, hold what it is that we want. We have to recognize what our relationship is like with safety. Safety, instead of it being like an on and off switch, is more of like a meter, and we each have a baseline for what our relationship with safety is like. Some people may have a baseline where they feel comfortable standing in front of a room of people and speaking. They may feel safe to talk to their partner about a difficult topic, while other people maybe have a baseline where they feel safe to talk to friends and family, but then in a group of people they kind of want to hide and they get social anxiety. When you have a goal, you most likely think, first of all, what are some of the action steps that I can take in order to reach that goal? And action will always be an important part of the manifestation process. But the work that actually shifts our reality and identity has to do with our relationship to safety and how that shows up in our day-to-day behavior. Most of the time, not even in the area of life that we are wanting to manifest in. I'm going to try to create a little mental picture for you. So at the top, just imagine the word my goal or my manifestation. And all the way at the bottom, imagine the word safety. And then there are all these little gaps in between. Those gaps have to do with your day-to-day behaviors and how they show up. Now, the reason why this always comes back to safety is because safety is how we respond to the world. It is how we anchor into this body and this identity. And if we are feeling unsafe and constantly uncomfortable in life, then we're going to see the world from a very different lens, and we are going to respond to the world from a very different lens. And this is where we can begin to mention trauma responses. Trauma responses don't always show up in big ways. They don't always show up through an anxiety or panic attack or through an uncomfortable sensation in your body, even though the body is a vessel for reflections. It can show up in how we feel when we walk into the grocery store. It can show up in how we feel when we are figuring out what we want to eat for breakfast, or if we even want to eat at all. The mindset that we have going into these day-to-day situations compound to then create our reality. So I want to give you guys a personal example just so you can begin to put the puzzle pieces together in your own life. So for example, I have really been focusing on manifesting in the creative areas of my life recently, especially around money and career, things like that. And I have been in the personal development and manifestation space for a long time. I'm 24 now, but I started when I was 18. And I have visualized so much. I've done EFT tapping. I have done breath work. I've done intuition training. Like, I can name so many things that I have dabbled in, some that I'm more proficient in than others. But also, this summer, I had a major identity shift through moving trauma responses in my body. I've always been very self-aware. Like, I've always known when I would disassociate, or when I would feel anxious, or I would be aware that a certain pattern is coming up in my relationship. But none of those things could change if I was energetically wired to behave and react that way to the world. Science has actually found that our hearts radiate an electromagnetic field, and that field has electrical charges and magnetism. This electromagnetic field can be measured in waves. So just like how sound emits waves, so do our hearts, and it can be felt from multiple feet away. And just imagine that, like, it's not only our electromagnetic field, but people's electromagnetic fields, and also energies that we can't see that may be coming from the collective or our area or the nature around us. What they have found is that when we are in fear or anxious or anything like that, the waves in our electromagnetic field are chaotic. That is my ice maker in the background. It always comes on when I do these episodes. I really should turn it off before I hop on here. But when we are feeling those emotions, the waves are chaotic versus when we are feeling joy or gratitude or safety. The waves are stabilized. So if you think about it, we are projecting these emotions through our electromagnetic field everywhere we go. We are telling the universe how to respond to us based on our own inner world. So over the summer, I had joined a 40-day ritual, and it was based on feminine energy and mindset and in that realm. At the beginning, there was a lot of journaling, and I'll be honest, journaling isn't my favorite thing. So I was like, I really hope I enjoy the rest of this membership, which I did. But after that initial pre-work, one of the assignments was to do Kriya Yoga for 30 days in a row, and there was a link. And I started doing it, and it was wildly uncomfortable. Kriya Yoga is a combination of yoga poses, breath work, and mantras. Mantras? I think it's interchangeable. So it's a combination of all of those. And I was really pushing myself. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to get through the 30 days. But I started to love it because I noticed that this lingering feeling of unease began to slowly move away. So I started exploring other Kriya Yoga practices and videos. And there was one in particular specifically for sexual healing and sexual trauma. And there was a portion in there where you're like on your back and you're lifting your legs up and you're holding it there for like a few minutes straight while doing this breathing exercise. And in the video, the instructor says, if your legs are shaking, let them shake. And that was really interesting to feel because I knew that my automatic trauma responses were either disassociation or fainting, which I haven't done in a really long time, but those two were always my main ones. So then when it came time to have the surgery on my mouth that I had in August, I was laying there for like 20 minutes and obviously they had me numbed up, but I could feel literally everything they were doing. And I know previous me would have started freaking out mentally. Instead, what happened was my legs were shaking like crazy, and I just remembered this instructor's voice, if your legs are shaking, let them shake. And I recognized that I had like no thoughts in my mind other than I trust the process. That was a huge, massive breakthrough for me, especially because I've always been an overthinker. So what can happen when we're manifesting is we're like, nothing is happening. I just want to quantum leap. I just want to collapse time. But collapsing time doesn't happen if we are somatically not available for that frequency. If the frequency that we are putting out from our body and our heart is not cohesive enough to receive that thing. And all the moments started to compound, like it started to turn into being able to go into the grocery store and not start feeling sweaty from just being out in public, which it's kind of funny that it would always show up like that for me because I've grown up as a performer and like being on stage will not make me anxious at all, but like just going somewhere by myself would. Or I would start to notice that when I would go for a walk, I wouldn't rush my walk, wanting to get back to my car so I could be in my cocoon and feel safe. So whatever it is you are manifesting, begin recognizing how you are currently reacting to life. It doesn't matter. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. It does matter what patterns you are aware of. But energetically, just recognizing the patterns isn't going to change your reactions and your behavior. And without changing your reactions and your behavior, then you can't receive the universe's reaction, so to speak, in the way that you want. Our body is always going to hold on to memories and store that in our body. There's always going to be a process of moving through things. So when it comes to healing ourselves, we don't need to constantly have an end goal in mind, because life is a cycle and we're going to go through experiences that have ups and downs, and we get to have the tools to move through it. Whatever you want to manifest is an amazing way to look at what reactions are coming up for you right now and what little micro traumas you have maybe picked up along the way that haven't been moved through the body that you can now clear, so that way you can receive what it is that you desire. Now, there are some things that are going to be more loud and prominent than others, because we build our nervous system in the womb, and also from the ages of 0 to 7, that is where we learn how to react to life. That is where we build our core belief system. When we clean up our relationship with safety, we clean up our relationship with the universe. So what I want you guys to do is start backtracking. For example, if you want to manifest a new relationship, but you know you can be critical in relationships, and maybe that has been an unhealthy trait of yours in the past, recognize where you learned that, and also notice your body language before you go into that critical mode. Because there is some part of you that is trying to defend yourself, right? And it is not anchored into that feeling of safety that we then come back to. So notice what is happening in your body language right when you're about to do this thing. And take note of where that energy is showing up most in your body. Then this is where you get to be creative and find the healing outlet for you that works for you. So for me, that was Kriya Yoga. You might like doing EFT tapping or breath work or maybe dance. It has to be something physical, because every other animal on this planet is going to go through trauma and shake it off afterwards. They're going to move the trauma through their body and then continue on with their life, basically. And we are different because we hold on to the memory of it. And other animals, of course, know when there is danger, but they're not going to overthink like us. They're not going to hold themselves back because of that previous experience, where when we have trauma, it affects so many of our future experiences. And what we want to do is allow our body to complete the trauma cycle. And I'm not a doctor or therapist or anything like that. So just make sure that when you find a practice that you feel like would resonate with you, you have someone to guide you through it, and that you also know your limits. You don't have to completely push yourself all at once. You get to give yourself the time to move through it little by little if that feels good for you. Then what that does is it creates trust within yourself. you start becoming more committed to yourself, because now maybe you're like, oh, I actually have the time and the space and the energy to be able to do this, rather than feeling exhausted from you having to try to fight against the world. So you start being able to commit to yourself, maybe you raise your standards, and you begin interacting with life differently. Then that changes your electromagnetic field, which then makes you open and available for receiving what you want and collapsing time. Because collapsing time isn't about you just taking action, it's what's going on within your own energy and your own frequency and the waves that you emit in relationship to the ones that the universe is sending out. So this also comes back to having that trust and relationship within the universe as well, which I've talked about in previous episodes. But now you get to learn how to speak the universe's language, because when you're able to move the energy through your body, now your reactions are different, your thoughts are different, and therefore you see the world and the universe in a different light, and it makes your intuition stronger, because now you are open and available to receive the next steps. You're not like stubborn and trying to just like ward off any other opinions. Instead, you are open and you know that it is safe to move forward and to proceed. And I would also love to recommend listening to one of the previous episodes on romanticizing grief, because that will help with the identity portion of this. Thank you for tuning into today's episode. As always, be sure to share the podcast and leave a 5-star review if this resonated. And be sure to follow me on socials at ReadKateDove. I will see you all in the next episode.